Do you ever have that moment where you suddenly realize just how much your life has been spent watching things from the outside? Lurking, scrolling, consuming? That was me 4 months ago, when I didn't get into the beta for 𝗖ście𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁. People were posting clips like, oh my god, the movement is so good. And I'm sitting there watching as they all had fun with the game. I was very bitter. I was very hateful. And I was very angry. But anyways, apparently it had a lot of issues. The character models, the lighting, the world design. People had a lot to say about it. And not in a good way either. And then the second closed beta trailer drops like an awfully hot coffee pot. I click play on the trailer and suddenly... After watching that, I thought to myself, this might be the next big thing. You don't need to be deep in the gacha scene to know how exhausting it has become. Pulling on banners is basically gambling in a hoodie, and most games treat you like you're lucky to just lose a little slower. But our game today, 𝗖ście𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁, somehow feels like it's trying to break that cycle. Right off the bat, the game throws out the idea of 50-50 rates, at least for your first copy of any character. And that alone changes how players think about value. You are not pulling a coin flip hanging over your head, because if you want someone, you get them. It is simple, direct, and honestly kind of shocking in how rare that is. The same mindset applies to weapons. Yeah, if you're aiming for a specific 5-star, the game just gives it to you. And if you're the type to hoard currency or just want to play long term, you can just craft them. There is no bait, no fine print, just grind, build, and get what you want. And because weapons are shared between characters, plus the fact that each one can carry 2 at a time, you are not stuck in that constant loop of needing to pull. You are not chasing one copy for each unit. That pressure to keep up with the meta is still there, of course, but it is softer, manageable. Even with the stat system, the Demon Witches avoids the usual RNG rabbit hole. There is no random substats, no rolls, no heartbreak, just fixed stats, and you can save your loadouts too. It is the kind of design that respects your time in a way most gacha games just don't. Put all of this together, and yeah, it is not an overstatement to say that 𝗖ście𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁 might be the most free-to-play friendly gacha game we have ever seen. It is not just generous, but disruptive. It is making a statement, and honestly, I think a lot of studios are going to be watching to see how players respond. Of course, generosity only gets you so far. Back when the first closed beta wrapped up, a lot of players had the same takeaway. The game had potential, but it didn't feel finished, because of course it is not finished. And the biggest criticism is the visuals. They were flat, environments felt sparse, character models looked oddly disconnected from the world around them, and the lighting was, at best, functional. It is like a brightness slider apparently. In a genre where style carries half the experience, it just wasn't cutting it. But here's the thing, the devs actually owned it. Not with like vague apologies, they actually went a full-on public changelog, detailing what they plan to fix before the next test. And now, a few months later, we are seeing the results. Character models look sharper, more polished. The lighting is not just brighter, it adds mood, it adds tone. And the environments, that is probably the biggest leap. The new footage shows off the fog effects, the denser foliage, layered lighting. Even places like the ruins of the past have been reworked to the point where they are barely recognizable in the best way. Before, the characters felt like they were floating through empty spaces. Now they feel rooted, connected, like they belong in this world. And yeah, any dev team can say that they're listening, but actually following through on public feedback within months, that shows a level of trust and responsiveness we don't see often, especially in this genre. It doesn't just build hype, it builds hope that this game might actually grow with its players. The second beta isn't just about new visuals though, it is also where the game starts feeling tactile. Like the systems aren't just functional, but actually enjoyable to use. The movement, for example, it looks like it got tightened up across the board. Characters now have smoother transitions, clearer animations, and there's a real sense of weight behind their motion. You've got the helix leaps, wall climbing, even wall jumps, which sounds like nothing much, until you realize just how rare it is to see verticality that actually matters in this kind of game. Combat too, it has got its share of refinement. Weapon handling looks far more fluid, with better animation blending and more responsive inputs. It is not about flashiness here, it is about making sure that every swing or shot feels deliberate, and that matters matters when a game leans this hard into hybrid combat, where you are constantly swapping between melee and ranged mid-fight. On the customization front, there is also a weapon dye system, which is the kind of feature that sounds cosmetic until you realize just how much time people will spend trying to match their weapons with their mood. Combine that with outfit adjustments and accessories, and you're getting a surprising amount of control over how your characters present themselves, not just in terms of fashion, but in creating visual identity. Then there is the performance side, full controller support, higher frame rate options, and customizable key bindings. That is basic stuff on paper, of course, but in practice, it means that devs aren't just building for one type of player. They are thinking the long term, across platforms, across input styles, and with an eye towards scalability. These aren't flashy improvements, they're the kind of behind the scenes groundwork that keeps a game feeling good, not just looking good. And that usually says more about a studio's priorities than any trailer ever could. But beyond the mechanics, 𝗖mě is trying to build a world that sticks with you, not just through the lore drops, but through the characters themselves. The Charons, the Charons, the Charons. I don't know how to pronounce this word. They're not your usual anime protagonists. They're the demons, second-class citizens in a world that treats them as lesser. Visually, they reflect that status. Horns, glowing veins, exposed spines. They look like aliens, even unsettling. But they are also striking, memorable in a way that doesn't rely on tropes. And for once, the cast isn't just made up of waifus in recycled silhouettes. You've got 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗆𝗵𝘁, god damn it, these names, dude, who starts as a villain and ends up playable. There is 𝗖Fire, whose design is about as subtle as her name. I mean, look at her, she's so good. I see red, you feel me? Haha. And then there's Rhythm. This is the only one I can pronounce correctly. Probably my favorite reveal so far. No idea what kind of bacon she is seeking, but whatever it is, I am on board. It helps that the devs are actually supporting this world building with systems. There is a story review feature, an in-game wiki, and they have reworked the UI to make quest lines easier to follow. Tutorials are being added for interactive mechanics, and the difficulty is getting balanced out in the more punishing sections. In short, they are not just writing the lore, they are making sure players can actually engage with it. And that level of accessibility, that clarity, it makes a big difference in whether people stick around after the honeymoon phase. One of the easiest ways to lose players in a live service game is to waste their time. And that is something 𝗖mě seems unusually aware of. Take commissions, for example. They have been streamlined not just in pacing, but in how they reward your efforts. You can now spend extra energy to multiply rewards, which sounds like a minor bonus, but it turns your daily task into something that you actually want to knock out, not something you feel guilty for skipping. Combat areas like the Forsakens have also been reworked. Elite spawns are more reliable, loot tables have been adjusted, and the enemy density has been bumped up across several zones. It makes the world feel more alive and, more importantly, more worth your time. And the grind is still there, but it's better paced and more intentional, less like you're dragging yourself through repetition just to hit a quota. And underneath all of that, the loadout system is quietly doing a lot of heavy lifting. Every character can equip 2 weapons, and not just any 2 weapons, but any 2 from the entire pool. That means the meta won't just be about chasing the newest banners, it'll be about finding the best synergy for the characters you like. And since weapons are shared across units, you're not getting punished for having favorites. This kind of design doesn't just keep power creep in check, it also cuts down on long-term burnout. You are not locked into an endless treadmill of re-rolling the same weapon for 10 different units. You build once, you invest wisely, and you're allowed to enjoy what you have built. That is not flashy, but it is smart. And smart design is what sustains a player base when the novelty wears off. What makes 𝗖mě interesting isn't just that it's improved, but how it improved. The devs didn't just patch over complaints from the first beta, they took the feedback, mapped it into the systems, and rebuilt the experience around trust, around clarity, around the idea that your time and your interests are worth respecting. And that is rare, especially in a genre that is usually more cornered with keeping players on the hook than treating them like people. If the second closed beta holds up to what we're seeing here, then 𝗖mě might actually be one of the few gacha games that feels fair. Not perfect, not revolutionary, but measured, and confident in a way that doesn't need to shout about it. It looks good, it plays better, and more importantly, it knows exactly what kind of game it wants to be. But that is all from me, 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗆, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers-o!